24 years I lived in the UK before visiting Scotland, and it only took a couple of hours to steal my heart. I'm Jasmine, and this is my partner Mark, the only person I know willing to drive hundreds of miles, sleep on the hard ground, inevitably end up drenched in the rain and eaten alive by midges, and still call it a good time.
Lost.
Very lost. We're now lost. If you've been following the vlog series, you'll know that 2022 was our third trip to Scotland, and it has become an annual tradition that we hope to continue for years to come. Now that we are back in England and settled into everyday life, we've had time to pause and reflect on this year's road trip. As you know, we had a skeleton timeline for this holiday, but we also kept each day free from plans to allow us to go with the flow and explore at our own pace. Because of this, it is only once we have returned that I can share the full trip itinerary and the route we took on our 2022 road trip. We allocated 5 nights and set off from home as early as we could, which was around 8 a.m. If you are planning on heading up to the Highlands, I would highly recommend setting off as early as possible and packing up the car the day before. This gave us a great head start and allowed flexibility in the day to change plans and take our time. The motorway took us past Gretna Green, which is a cute stop, but not somewhere to spend more than a few hours. After that, we headed to Glasgow for the afternoon and spent time in the botanical gardens, played some table tennis, and captured some of the architecture. But as you will be aware, this was a camping trip and you can't camp in a city centre. So we headed north to Clyde Muirshiel Regional Park. Now, we found this area with a quick Google Maps search, and every year we like to visit different areas to see as much of Scotland as we can. I couldn't find much about the area, and to be honest, once we got there I started to understand why. A lot of the regional park didn't seem accessible, we really struggled to find somewhere to camp, and there didn't seem to be many places to pull over for walks or to take in the scenery. Coupled with a downpour of rain and driving back and forth across the same roads as it was going dark, didn't make for a great start to the trip. To be honest, probably not somewhere we will be rushing back to. However, once we got set up, we slept well and with the sound of the rain on the roof of the tent and woke up feeling refreshed, ready for another day. Day 2 was another point of somewhere on the map and try and find a road to get there. We deliberately avoided the ferry to get to Dunoon, which left us with a 2.5-hour drive through Glenmallan. Some people may think we were crazy to create such a long journey that wasn't particularly necessary, but the views were stunning. The roads were empty and it gave us plenty of time to just enjoy the road trip. Puck's Glen in Dunoon is somewhere I would definitely recommend stopping at if you are that way. The walk was just long enough and easy enough for a quick loop round, and it really felt like a magical place to be, and you really did feel immersed in the nature. Just don't get lost like we did. After that, we headed to Campbelltown and Machrihanish Beach. This was by far the highlight of the trip for me, as I don't think you can get much better than wild camping on a beautiful beach with no one around. The weather was great for us to barbecue, and we even went for a dip in the sea. And then we caught an amazing sunset over the water, and it was just the perfect evening. Quick tip while we are here. When you are adventuring around Scotland, supermarkets can be few and far between, as well as petrol stations. So we took the opportunity while we were down in Campbelltown to restock on some food and to fuel up. Day 3, we drove to Oban. It took around 2.5 hours to get there, and we made it in perfect time for lunch and a quick look around the shops and the harbour. We usually stop at Ullapool on our trips as a harbour town stop, but we wanted to try somewhere different this time. Although the food was great at the restaurant we went to in Oban, I think Mark in particular is still dreaming about the seafood shack in Ullapool, so we will probably stop there again next year. We had a lot of random stops along the drive down to Morvern, including some really nice lochs. The best piece of advice that I can give on a trip to Scotland is take your time, stop in random car parks and lay-bys, go and explore when you see a walking sign and try to enjoy each moment, even if that moment is a long car ride. I should just point out though, please do not stop in passing places. Make sure that there is a designated car park sign, otherwise people won't be able to get past you on the single track roads. Another tip, book an Airbnb or hotel at some point in your trip. Having a hot shower and being able to cook in an oven is great after a couple of days roughing it. The Airbnb we stayed in was great and the breakfast in the morning was 10 out of 10. I didn't even take a photo of it because I was enjoying it so much, and we got chatting to other guests there about their journey and shared some stories over coffee. They actually lived in Scotland and was doing the same. They were trying to see as much of it as possible, so we actually got some really good ideas from them and inspiration for next trips as well. Day 4, not going to lie, it was a bit rough. Neither of us felt 100%, no particular reason why, but that, alongside the weather taking a turn for the worse, meant we scrapped our original plan of a long hike up Monroe. But instead, we had a great day, taking our time, and we found a lovely spot in Glencoe for a picnic. Another place that we didn't intend to stop and ended up being a highlight of our trip, especially because we had the place to ourselves. I need to shout out the farm shop that we passed as well to get here near Luss because, oh my goodness, it was the best milkshake I have ever had. If they delivered to England, I would have one every week. It was the best thing ever. The 4th night, we stayed in a log cabin at Bain farm campsite in Loch Lomond, and it was a great place. I would highly recommend it for both camping and for the log cabins. We don't usually go for a cabin, but they were on offer. So check the websites before you go. You might be able to get a deal. And in Loch Lomond, you have to have a permit for camping, and there's not that many available. So if you are planning on camping or visiting Loch Lomond, you do have to plan ahead a little bit. It's not as flexible as some of the other places. But the campsite had everything we needed. It was only a short walk away from an old inn down the road called Driver's Inn. To be honest, that was pretty average, as you will see in the day 4 vlog, but it did the job, and we ended the evening eating s'mores and having a campfire and generally relaxing, which is something that we sometimes forget to do on these adventures. Early risers, we were up and packed away by 8 a.m, so we explored Loch Lomond, spent some time at Firkin Point. Again, another tradition that we seem to have made, but it is a really nice spot to go to. And then on the drive back, we stopped at Balloch Castle and the country park and ended up stopping in Carlisle for a few hours to get some tea, and because we'd never been, so why not? So now we are home after travelling a total of 900 miles across Scotland and England. I already miss it. We are already planning next year's trip, and we are looking to do some of the West Islands next year and start making a dent on the 94 islands that Scotland has. And we will definitely be camping again as we have continued to fall in love with the freedom of wild camping. But the lodging this trip was also great, so I'd definitely do that again. We would also like to visit Inverary. We drove through it and stopped very, very briefly at the castle there, but it's somewhere that I think we would probably go for a weekend just to actually make use of it. We just didn't have time on this trip. And I'm sure next year we will also go back to Firkin Point. It's just something that has to be done. So thank you for coming along with us, and stay tuned for more wandering adventures.